What is going on, everybody? It's the Frost, and we're here for UnScripted episode number 134 for your August the 30th, 2020. Your Payback Sunday nights. Tonight, of course, is Payback. Again, for whatever reason, WWE decided we're going to have a pay-per-view the week after SummerSlam. Not much build to that pay-per-view, but we'll talk about that tonight when Payback is over. But this afternoon, we have some news on Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns' partnership. Why is this happening? Before we get into what the plans are, WWE has been trying for years, not just WWE, Vince McMahon has been trying for 5 years to get Roman Reigns to be the beloved babyface that John Cena was at the beginning of his career, Hulk Hogan was for his first run in WWE, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was from 1997 to 2001, when the fans were behind him all the way. All those guys behind them all the way. As we know, when they started shoving John Cena down their throat, fans turned on him. Not even 2 years later, after he became the WWE champion. But there was a time when John Cena was loved by the fans. If you actually go back and look from 2002 to 2004, 2003 to 2004, after he turns babyface, after his one heel run, the fans loved themselves from John Cena. Roman Reigns never got this opportunity after the Shield broke up. The only time people actually cared and wanted to cheer Roman Reigns and the only time I actually felt that he got that huge pop as an in-ring single star, or a possibility of being a single star, was when WWE brought back Batista. Everybody did not want to see Batista win that Royal Rumble. Daniel Bryan wasn't in that Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns was. And everybody, when it came down to Roman and Batista, everybody supported Roman Reigns. Everybody. Of course, we didn't know that a couple months later, WWE would be putting all their eggs in the Roman Reigns basket and nothing else. And as time went on, everything just continued to be Roman. And the fans quickly turned on him. The fans wanted nothing to do with Roman Reigns. They always had somebody else, from Daniel Bryan to anybody else. Literally anybody else could walk in and beat Roman Reigns for a championship. Hell, when Roman Reigns won his first WWE championship at Survivor Series in 2015 because of the Seth Rollins injury, it was supposed to be Roman versus Seth at that pay-per-view. Seth Rollins got hurt. His knee exploded on him. They had a tournament when it came down to Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. Roman won like everybody predicted, and then Sheamus, who was Mr. Money in the Bank at the time, came in, hit him with the bro kick, won the championship. And when Sheamus won the title, everybody in that arena was happy that Roman Reigns did not win the championship. And then people realized, oh shit, it's Sheamus. We don't want this. But in that brief moment of Sheamus winning the WWE championship, everybody was happy that it wasn't Roman Reigns. Then Roman got it back by beating Vince McMahon. I mean, not Vince McMahon. He beat Sheamus, but he punched Vince McMahon. And of course, WWE has this thing where it's if somebody is not working out where they want them to be the big dog or the big star, bring Vince McMahon out. Vince McMahon will be the perfect person to get this guy over as a babyface, because who doesn't want to see somebody knock Vince McMahon over like Stone Cold Steve Austin did all those years ago? Well, from that championship match when he won the title to the Royal Rumble, people were actually starting to get behind Roman a little bit. Then the Rumble happened. Then the build to WrestleMania happened. Then the match at WrestleMania with Roman Reigns and Triple H happened, and how horrible that pay-per-view was. WrestleMania 32 was one of the worst matches, one of the worst WrestleManias in history. The only one that tops it, really, in my opinion, is WrestleMania 9, because that was an abomination, except for Shawn Michaels versus Tatanka, but everything else on that pay-per-view absolutely sucked. But WrestleMania 32 came in, it was like, hold my beer. It was a bad pay-per-view from top to bottom. Of course, a lot of talents like John Cena, Seth Rollins, and so on and so forth were injured. But you got Roman versus Triple H. And Roman, of course, won the title. Everyone had to deal with him being champion for a while. Seth Rollins eventually came back. That was also the year that Roman Reigns ended up getting caught with PEDs or busted for taking PEDs. So he had to be suspended. Dean Ambrose won the championship. Oh, I'm sorry. No, wait. Hold on. Yeah, it's 2016. Yeah, 2016. Dean Ambrose won the championship. Roman was in the doghouse for pretty much the remainder of the year. And then, of course, we got to WrestleMania 30, what was it, 33? Yeah, WrestleMania 33. Yeah, 33 and 17. 34 was in 18. 35 was last year. 36, yeah. So WrestleMania 33. And WWE just kept pushing the Roman agenda year in and year out. There was the time when we had the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns won the Universal title at SummerSlam. What was it, 2 years ago? And WWE had Braun Strowman as Money in the Bank champ, Money in the Bank ladder match winner. So WWE decided, well, Roman doesn't have any heels to build off of, so let's have Braun Strowman turn heel. One of the most over guys in the company as a babyface. Now a heel, completely. Yet WWE still refused to turn Roman Reigns heel. They even said, well, this isn't working. Let's bring back the Shield. You remember the Shield from 2012 to 2014. Everybody loved the Shield. Everybody was behind the Shield. Let's trot them out to be Roman Reigns' lackeys. See, when the Shield first came together, it felt natural. They felt like a group. They felt like a group of not leader, like one leader and two guys behind them. Because as we know with the Shield, WWE always made it seem like, oh, Dean is the leader, Seth is the leader, Roman's the leader. Every other week it seemed like somebody else was leading the pack between these three guys. Then, of course, the Shield broke up. Seth Rollins went on to do what he did, and Roman Reigns was the big guy, and of course Dean Ambrose became the third man. Pretty much WWE treated Dean Ambrose as if he was the Marty Jannetty of the group, which is terrible because as we see down in AEW with Jon Moxley, they missed the boat on one of the best talents they could have had and a multi-time champion over the last 4 or 5 years. But when it came to Roman, WWE just kept pushing. And guys like me and guys like other content creators on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram or whatever you use for like all your podcasts from Podbean to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and all these other things, we all said Roman needs to turn heel. And conveniently, Roman Reigns, of course, as we know before COVID-19 hit, was supposed to face Goldberg at WrestleMania for the Universal title. When they went to go tape WrestleMania 36, Roman Reigns went, you know what, I'm going home. People thought that maybe it's because of his immune system, but Roman has come out recently, a couple months ago, and said his immune system is not the reason he went home. The pills that he takes to keep his leukemia away don't attack his immune system. He recently had two twins, like I think it was twin boys. And he would be doing them a disservice coming to work when they're just very, very young. Possibility, especially after all the outbreaks, which we'll talk about that later, that WWE had during this entire pandemic thing, that if Roman would have been around all of that, he could have got COVID. He could have taken it home to his kids and got his kids sick and his wife sick, and he didn't want to risk that at the time. Now, I don't know what the difference between back when he left from WrestleMania 36 and now, but Roman Reigns came back, as we know, at SummerSlam, destroying the Fiend, destroying Braun Strowman, and putting out there, a lot of people speculating, is he going to be heel? Now, conveniently, WWE did not listen to the fans' cries, turn this guy heel, turn him heel. He's a failure as a babyface. Now, I don't blame Joe for the failure of Roman Reigns being a failure as a babyface. I blame Vince McMahon because he doesn't know how to make a babyface that people can get behind. So he was doomed to fail from the start. But it's just kind of convenient that we're in the middle of a global pandemic, which is a bunch of bullshit, but we're not going to get into that. We don't have actual fans in the crowd. WWE controls who gets booed, who gets cheered. When it comes to the whole Roman Reigns thing, he is a heel right now. He is officially a heel. Paul Heyman, of course, returned on WWE TV at the end of the Payback Go Home show edition of SmackDown on Fox and aligned himself with Roman Reigns. As you saw on the end of this past Friday's show, Roman was talking about how he will be at Payback, he will win this match and take his title back, and said that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler. They pan over, Paul Heyman's there, and he says, believe that. PW Insider reports that Reigns, as the newest Paul Heyman guy, is scheduled to be booked as the top SmackDown heel going forward. On a related note, it was confirmed that current plans also have Braun Strowman moving forward as a heel permanently. Now, in a global pandemic, will they decide an empty arena with a bunch of screens showing a bunch of people and they control what the sound looks like? Yes, they can make Braun Strowman a heel permanently. Now, when fans are eventually back in these arenas, how well will they be able to keep Braun Strowman a heel for the rest of his career? Will people start cheering him when he does something against somebody that we don't like? What is going to do for Braun? If Roman Reigns turns babyface, as soon as the fans come back and say Roman Reigns turns babyface, the heel experiment ends because there's fans back and they want Roman Reigns cheered, and they go up against Braun Strowman, people will start cheering Braun Strowman over Roman Reigns, and then and Vince McMahon will look like the biggest fucking idiot. With Reigns and Strowman working as heels, the idea moving forward is to use Universal Champion The Fiend Bray Wyatt as a babyface, with The Fiend being the top face for the blue brand. Sunday's Payback main event will see The Fiend defend his title against Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman in a no-holds-barred triple threat match. So, WWE brought him back. Brought Roman Reigns back to make him the new heel along with Braun Strowman. But why? Why would WWE want to do this now? Why would they take forever? And I mean forever. 5 years. We have been calling for 5 years. Turn this guy heel. WWE would never give John Cena that heel run as a major star. Like I said, John Cena has had one heel run. And honestly, the heel run that he had in late 2002 into 2003 saved his career. Because if it wasn't for the rapping gimmick wouldn't have got over from the start as a babyface. The rapping gimmick he had wasn't a babyface gimmick. That needed to be a heel. Then eventually it morphed into a babyface run, and John Cena became the biggest star in the company. I just have to ask myself, why didn't WWE do this pattern with Roman Reigns? Roman Reigns should have been the one to turn heel. Roman Reigns should have been the one to be the heel coming out of the Shield, crushing Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins on his way to becoming a major star. And then fans would have went from having Roman Reigns be this despicable heel that nobody cared about to probably being the most over guy in the company. But they didn't go down that route. They wanted to skip the heel run, singles heel run, and go straight to the babyface run and make him Super Cena 2.0, and it failed horribly. Horribly. So, Roman Reigns is a heel. How long they will decide to keep Roman Reigns a heel is up to Vince McMahon and his cronies. I don't see Roman being a heel for very long. I don't see... Because you gotta think that Vince McMahon backstage is stewing and just pissed off that he has to take his guy and make him a heel just because his way of doing things didn't work. And the only reason they're doing this, you can guarantee the only reason they're doing this right now, is because there are no actual fans in the arena. We don't have 15,000 fans on a nightly basis who are looking to see Roman Reigns be a heel and see what he can do as a heel. No. They want They want 15,000 fans to be in the arena cheering this guy as the biggest babyface in all of professional wrestling. And it's just not going to happen as it is right now because Roman Reigns, the Roman Reigns character, I just don't buy as a babyface. Just like the Fiend, who's supposed to be the biggest babyface right now. It's like, how are you going to make, like, the Fiend is not a babyface character. The Bray Wyatt Firefly Funhouse guy could be a babyface, but the Fiend himself is not a babyface. And, I mean, the whole thing about the thing about the Fiend is when you go up against the Fiend, you change. And it's usually babyfaces changing into big, bad heels, or crazy heels in the form of Alexa Bliss, which we'll see where that's going in the coming weeks. But it's just, how are you going to have the Fiend put the mandible claw on somebody and and it's like, it just doesn't make any sense to have the Fiend, who changed The Miz, who at the end of last year was a babyface, now is a heel again. Braun Strowman is a heel. Alexa Bliss, again, is going crazy. Seth Rollins became the Monday Night Messiah. Daniel Bryan is like the only one that didn't turn from heel to babyface. He just lost all of his hair. Other than that, it's just like, I don't, like, if he's going to be the babyface now, you really can't have the Fiend be, well, if you come in contact with the Fiend, you change. It just doesn't work like that anymore. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight. I did say in my predictions, I believe, I want to go with the Fiend keeping it for now. Having him only be a week-long transitional champion is annoying as fuck. This is what you can do, is have Braun Strowman cost Roman Reigns the win. Braun Strowman ends up eating the pinfall, and then Roman Reigns, incensed that his championship, the championship he never lost. The championship that he should have, he never really rightfully got. I don't think he ever got a rematch for it. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure he never got a one-on-one rematch. He is pissed. He wants that championship, and he's going to stop at nothing to get it. So Roman Reigns goes after the Braun Strowman, and that makes me wonder how they're going to be able to do this, because you have Roman and Braun Strowman in this triple threat match are the heels. This would make sense if it was Roman was the only heel, Braun Strowman was a babyface, but I don't see how they do this. I don't see how they do this. Like I said, that's going to be an interesting main event, and we'll just have to see what happens tonight. And I am interested to see what happens with the Paul Heyman dynamic with Roman Reigns. We all know the last two people really who were Paul Heyman guys not named Brock Lesnar were Ryback and Curtis Axel. And what are those two doing now? Ryback is doing podcasts, and I believe Curtis Axel is off in the unemployment line. Yeah, I want to have high hopes for Roman Reigns as a heel as a Paul Heyman guy, but the track record in WWE, Paul Heyman guys not named Brock Lesnar, or if you want to say CM Punk, are not good. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but WWE had a massive outbreak. I wouldn't say a massive outbreak, but a big outbreak of COVID-19 about 2 months ago. WWE was forced to install a whole bunch of testing and everything. So we wondered how many people got COVID-19 at that outbreak. WWE has reportedly had more than 36 positive COVID-19 tests during the pandemic. It was noted by Dig Mills of the Wrestling Observer Radio that there has been 38 positive coronavirus tests come out of WWE. It appears that these 38 tests came after Kayla Braxton, her first bout with the virus in late March. Braxton reportedly caught the virus again while out with friends at dinner, not while working with WWE Performance Center TV tapings. In regards to that was the coronavirus test that tested positive around WrestleMania time. In regards to positive tests, Meltzer also noted that WWE did not notify employees each one in the outbreak, as they did when Braxton first tested positive following the coronavirus outbreak from late June, when Renee Young, Adam Pearce, and Jay Noble tested positive, and Kayla Braxton said she got it again. Among others, WWE began implementing extra COVID test safety protocols for the outbreak. So, yeah. That is what we kind of figured. That was as many as it was 38, I think 30 plus. It's still pathetic that WWE kept that from everybody. I mean, when AEW has some kind of coronavirus something, like when Jon Moxley and QT Marshall both had run-ins with people with COVID, we knew. AEW told us. But yet, AEW told us, but WWE decides, well, we don't want that. We don't want to tell people, hey, this person has COVID or that person had COVID, because they still want to pretend like it's only a fantasy or it's an inconvenience. They can't do, like, it's Vince McMahon. We know Vince McMahon loves to have control of everything. He hates not being in control. Vince McMahon would rather be able to tell you that he is, like, everything is, like, he wants to control everything. And when he can't control something like this, it eats at him. It pisses him off. It makes him, it kills him inside that he has to deal with this. He wants to be able to sit there, have fans in the arena, have, like, people sitting there cheering, booing, and everything else. And yes, we know that the fans make up a good portion of a show. I mean, go watch AEW from this past week, when Jericho comes out and for the first time in 5 fucking months, we hear Judas being sung by the crowd of 500 or 600 people. What difference that made for the last 5 months. Yes, having the little bit of crowd that they had with the talent at ringside, it's one thing. It was fine. It was better than nothing. But man, having 500 people to 600 people in Daly's place, man, it sounded great. Them reacting to big moves, cheering on their favorite talent, booing MJF or Jericho or whoever else, was great. And I know it's killing Vince McMahon inside that he made this deal with the Amway Center that he can't have fans until November, really. But the Amway Center, the Daly's Place, which is an open air arena, can. Now, Vince McMahon was stupid for picking up the Amway Center instead of, maybe finding a football field or a soccer stadium that could host fans and can be outside. But that's what Vince McMahon does. He went with the best that he could do. And this is what they're going to do, is the whole Thunderdome thing. Do I like the Thunderdome? Not really. But, yeah. WWE, and here's the thing, if WWE would have taken the stance that Tony Khan did from the start, they would be in a much better position today than they actually are. But did they take that position right? No. Vince McMahon just had to lay an egg and get caught with the egg on his face before he's like, oh shit, we need to do this way, or we'll never get back to where we want to be. That's on Vince McMahon, and you cannot blame anyone but Vince McMahon. Speaking of Vince McMahon, Monday Night Raw had the rare honor of being not only the post-pay-per-view show for SummerSlam, but also a go-home show for Sunday's Payback pay-per-view. I don't think that has ever happened before. The task of moving on from one pay-per-view to build up new angles in one show forced Raw to change the script at last night's Raw. This is something we see all the time. Vince McMahon made numerous changes Monday morning and throughout Monday, according to the latest Wrestling Observer News Radio. Vince then arrived at Raw at 7 p.m. Eastern to make a few more minor adjustments. The final script of the show went out after 9 p.m. So Raw was an hour into the show before an official script was completed. This is what WWE does all the fucking time. Are you kidding me? 1 hour into your Monday Night Raw and you are still writing the show? Who does that? This stuff you have between Monday and the following Monday to write this show. The pay-per-view, you have, except for this week, usually you have an entire month to write what the pay-per-view is going to look like, build towards it, and have it ready to go when you get to that pay-per-view. How could you be so incompetent to go and not have what you want to have done ready for this show? It's just laughable how bad this is. AEW, they have shows. Yes, for a while there they were taping one and going live. But even like when they were getting built up and starting their shows from the first episode, which was on October 2nd, to now, to probably before COVID hit, they had months in advance ideas of what they were going to, like shows, months in advance, laid out and ready to go. How WWE is not able to have a month's worth of shows ready to go by the beginning, like September, every show for Raw and SmackDown. I'm not even going to talk about NXT because of how they used to go, and I wish they would still be like that. That's something totally different. But Raw and SmackDown should have all of those shows for September mapped out and ready to go for Monday, for this coming Monday. Even though I know Monday's not the first episode of September, it's the final episode of August, but that show and every show going on should be mapped out so we have continuous continuity. But of course, this is WWE where continuity doesn't exist. They must also reported the Payback matches have already been decided and once switched up. Payback is at 7 p.m. on the WWE at the Thunderdome in Orlando, Florida. Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman. Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Apollo Crews versus Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title. Keith Lee versus Randy Orton. Also announced on Talking Smack was Big E versus Sheamus. I'm going with Big E on that one. Billy, the Moronics versus the Riot Squad will be happening on the kickoff show. And basically that's it. But we see this every single week. How does Vince McMahon continue to pull this off? How do we continue to have Monday Night Raw not be going into Monday Night Raw with a full script? You have promos. In that final 2 hours that aren't even done until an hour before the show. Like an hour going into the show. What the hell? I can understand. I can understand why writers just want to quit. I can understand why talent are frustrated. How are you going to go into a show on Monday night and not have the entire thing decided before you start? It just makes no sense to me. It's just so bad that WWE is this incompetent. Vince McMahon is this incompetent. WWE needs to get their act together. It's like, give me a break. That's just. I could understand when you get. Now I understand when you see Jon Moxley or Eric Young or Brian Myers or Brody Lee or Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, all these other guys who come out of the world, they come out and they just speak about their frustration with Vince McMahon and WWE. Because Vince McMahon is the problem, and Vince McMahon is always going to be the problem until something else changes. And that's the truth of the matter. We can't, we can sit there here's the thing. We can sit here on YouTube. We can say it on Twitter. We can say it on Facebook, Instagram, or any other social media platform. Any podcast that you can find available. We can say it till we're blue in the face. Vince needs to go, or Vince needs to change something, and nothing's going to get done because our voices do not matter. Does it help for us to say anything? I don't have a clue. All I know is this needs to stop. Apparently they have meetings on Wednesdays, if I'm correct, is what I read this a while ago. They have meetings on Wednesdays for the next Monday. That gives you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That gives you 5 days to get the next Monday Night Raw done. Bullshit. You should have people in the back when the show is finalized, which it should be finalized 2 hours before the show. Have everyone get their stuff, get their lines if you want them to have a script or whatever. People need to go over the matches. All of it needs to be finalized before 2 hours before showtime. Everything. And then from that time until the show is over, you should be having whoever, like what are the writers going to do? What are the writers doing while the show is going on the air? They should be sitting back there figuring out where we're going for next week. Next week should be already in the middle of being done while Monday Night Raw is going on the air on Monday. Same thing with SmackDown. SmackDown, that show should be finalized 3 hours before the show because it is a 2-hour show and you have that extra hour to work with. But as that's going on and everyone's got their stuff, you give them the breaks. As soon as SmackDown goes on the air, the writers should be either in Connecticut or in the back figuring out, well, this is what's happening tonight. What are we going to do next week? Now, I can understand pay-per-view coming up. And of course, all those ideas, like a pay-per-view, all that shit should be decided before SmackDown goes off the air. That should be completely done. And then you can go, well, we have the pay-per-view, so where are we going to go from there for Raw and SmackDown? Everything should be decided beforehand. And no, Vince McMahon should not come into Monday Night Raw or SmackDown and be like, well, I don't feel right about this anymore. I think this isn't good enough. We need to change this. No, that doesn't need to happen. I know Vince McMahon likes to change his ideas more than I change my clothes, or more than you change your clothes, or you get a shower, or whatever the metaphor wants to be. But it needs to stop. These shows will not get better if Vince McMahon is coming into Monday Night Raw or SmackDown and changing things up. And the show is on the air at 8 o'clock, both of them. And we'll hear about more Monday than we do Friday, even though Friday's on Fox now. But you just, I couldn't run a business like that. I don't know how anyone could run a business like that. But we shouldn't be sitting there wondering, if you're somebody in the back wondering, why is this show's final script not done yet? This company just makes no sense to me. It doesn't. And there was a news story that came out about 2 weeks ago or so that everyone but Roman Reigns apparently has inquired AEW about coming to work for them when their contracts come up or they leave WWE. And I can believe it. With all the stress that these people are put on, like Alexa Bliss. We know that they did the whole Fiend thing. She got attacked by the Fiend. When she's around Nikki Cross, she's starting to act a little bit different. She comes to talk to Braun Strowman, slaps him a couple times. He picks her up and then drops her onto the mat. And it all felt like it was culminating in an angle spot at the pay-per-view. That angle spot never came because they went with Roman Reigns. Alexa Bliss put a emoji or a picture of a female character shrugging her shoulders as the pay-per-view ended. And I honestly thought that was it. They're dropping the Alexa Bliss thing. She's going to go back to being partnered with Nikki Cross and it's going to be nothing. That, of course, is not the case. But leading up to that pay-per-view, SummerSlam, I guarantee I wasn't the only one, figured Braun Strowman's losing the championship because of Alexa Bliss. Maybe Alexa Bliss is going to become Sister Abigail. This is also something why I don't understand how you're going to have Roman Reigns be a heel, Braun Strowman be a heel, and the Fiend be a babyface. If you're doing this whole thing with Alexa Bliss, and Alexa Bliss is going from being the funny, caring version that she's been lately to psycho bitch who snapped on Nikki Cross because Nikki Cross said that her hair, the little bit of hair that she did up, reminds her of the Fiend. Just saying the word Fiend in front of Alexa Bliss has changed her a little bit. But it's like, Things change all the time. And it just makes no sense how WWE can operate like this. Maybe one day we'll get it, maybe we won't. All I can say is this, and I'll say one more thing. Vince McMahon has to go. We know this. Everybody says it. People who leave the company say it. People on podcasts say it all the time. But nothing's going to change because Vince McMahon doesn't want it to change. We don't know what's going to happen with WWE after Vince McMahon is gone. There might not even be a WWE when Vince McMahon leaves. Who fucking knows? But only thing we can do is just sit here and see what's going on. What happens. And I don't want to hear anybody say, oh, if you don't like it, don't watch. Fuck you. Say that to a sports team, a sports fan who watches the team suck for 10, 15, 20 years. And people are telling them, which it's kind of funny because you have, this was funny, I saw it somewhere, but it's like, you have AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, I'm sorry, not AJ Styles, but Seth Rollins and Baron Corbin telling fans that they need to stop complaining and enjoy what they're watching. And then when football season comes around, and the Bears are doing terrible. I don't know who Baron Corbin is a fan of, but like if the Chicago Bears are doing terrible, what is Seth Rollins doing on TV, on Twitter? Oh, I hate football. He's complaining about his football team. When the Bears play well, he's celebrating. He's being happy as can be. So how dare you tell WWE fans to stop complaining and just watch the TV show, or if you don't like it, don't watch, when you're a fucking hypocrite. So when football season comes around, you will sit there and bitch and complain about your favorite sports team. It's practically the same fucking thing. If I'm not supposed to complain about Monday Night Raw sucking or SmackDown Live sucking because of Vince McMahon's ego and the audience of one mentality, you have no right to complain when the Bears suck or the Lions suck or any other fucking sports team suck. That just shows how much of a hypocrite you can be. Absolutely pathetic. Now, this past Monday was interesting with the Thunderdome, and as I said this on Friday, I'm not the big eagle-eyed viewer that other people are. I don't really want to pay attention to the Thunderdome, but this past weekend we saw somebody put a sign up that said "Fire Velveteen Dream," and WWE banned that person. But WWE has issued a statement on the KKK imagery that made it into the Thunderdome during last Monday's Raw. There was also images of Chris Benoit, Super Mario, that fans were able to get into the Thunderdome, which I'm pretty sure Super Mario is not going to get anyone angry. I mean, it's Super Mario. Somebody also had a bear, had a picture of a stuffed bear, like one of those huge stuffed bears. That's not going to get anybody kicked out of the Thunderdome. It's just a bear. It's Super Mario. That's nothing wrong. But Chris Benoit and a man wearing a KKK robe, apparently waving the Confederate flag, was even what appeared, and there is even what appeared to be a beheading as well. WWE issued a statement and said they are working to ban those involved from future events. This abhorrent behavior does not reflect WWE's values. We have zero tolerance for this unacceptable act. We are working to ban those involved from future events, and per our policy, any inappropriate actions result in removal of the live stream, WWE statement to the New York Post said. Now, like I said, I'm not an eagle-eye viewer. I didn't see the Kenny Omega thing. I didn't see any of this stuff because I'm not really paying attention to those. Like, someone could say, hey, I'm in the Thunderdome, find me. And I'm like, I'm not looking for anybody. I think the Thunderdome suck. I tried to get into it. On Monday. I didn't get into it because they were like, oh, we're at full capacity the entire time. But whatever. But people should have seen this coming. Come the fuck on. Now, I know the NBA does this too. They have their screens up, but honestly, those look like they have people that they pre-screen. You see legends, you see basketball players a lot of the time. Maybe family members of said basketball players are watching via these virtual fans. It's not all actual, legit virtual fans. You're not going to see somebody during an NBA game put up a beheading of somebody, or somebody wearing the KKK or any of that stuff. But this is WWE. You should have seen this coming. That's just like AEW sold tickets for the first time in 5 months to a show at Daly's Place. And then Tony Khan comes out and says that he's disappointed with people trying to take these pods they've set up for groups of people to buy and watch the show together so that they could, be with family and friends who they come with. But then people would buy these tickets and try to split them up and sell them individually, and Tony Khan wasn't happy about this. And I sat there and I replied to him, I'm like, come on, Tony, you should have seen this coming. This is 2020. Shit like this is going to happen. People are going to be fucking trolls. And then, here's the thing. WWE is allowing you the opportunity to see yourself on television and get your 15 minutes of screen time that you're not going to get any other way. Don't ruin it for everybody. It's absolutely pathetic that somebody would sit there and try and ruin other people's fun. But that's the world we live in. I didn't expect to see a beheading or KKK or something like that. I figured people would put up signs that say, like, Fire Velveteen Dream, AEW's better, fuck WWE, stupid shit like that. But Chris Benoit, really? KKK, really? A possible beheading or other type of execution, really? That's what you think is gonna be is fun to do? Hey, look, I'm a troll. I'm gonna try and see how obscene and stupid I can be about WWE. There you go. WWE got these people got fucking stupid. And if you continue to do this and you continue to fuck up, WWE is going to go, well, we tried this. We can't trust people. We're going to do this a different way. We're going to find maybe 1,000 people that we know who are trustworthy. And we're going to let them come into the Thunderdome and nobody else. So we'll see the same. And for all we'll know, they'll use Performance Center talent over and over and over again. And instead of them being out there for us to watch and then make noise, they're going to be on these screens. And that is what the Thunderdome is going to be. So if you like and enjoy the experience of the Thunderdome, enjoy it while you can, because I guarantee you people are going to ruin it. They already have tried, and it's going to continue to happen. What are you going to do about it? It's like WWE. It's not like WWE can go to everybody's house who they have for the Thunderdome and be like, okay, they have to sit there and monitor what everyone's doing. Now they can all I can say is it is what it is. They can't do anything else other than what they've already done. It's abhorrent, it's appalling, and it's something that should not happen. But it is 2020, and that is going to happen. Now, let's talk about something that we all should have known. Ex-WWE writer on officials not believing in Kofi Kingston as WWE champion, and the squash that he had, the plans for the squash between him and Brock Lesnar. Former WWE writer Dave Schilling said no one in WWE with any real influences believed in Kofi Kingston when it was time for his big WWE title run last year. As we know, Kofi's big title reign began at WrestleMania 35 in April 2019 by defeating Daniel Bryan, who had won the title in November of 2018. Kofi held the title for exactly 180 days, which is nothing to sneeze at. That is a hell of a title run. A lot of people don't get that type of title run. Drew McIntyre could possibly get that type of title run, maybe not. But yeah, to get 180 days continuously is something to applaud. Before losing to Brock Lesnar on the SmackDown 20th anniversary show, which also was the SmackDown on Fox premiere on October 4th, Lesnar squashed Kofi in just 7 seconds. Schilling commented how no one with any real sway in WWE believed in Kofi. I was there, I saw it. No one had any real sway and believed Kofi. Schilling also noted that there was plans to squash Kofi Kingston. Brock Lesnar was to squash Kofi Kingston from day one. The plan was Kofi getting squashed by Brock from day one on his title reign, day one. It is possible that WWE saw the major reaction to Kofi's title win and decided to change plans. Kofi's first and only WWE title reign was seen as a major success until the quick loss to Brock Lesnar. Schilling also was responding to video of Miz and Big E's viral exchange on Talking Smack this past weekend, which had been a hot topic on social media. Big E first spoke about Kofi's lack of opportunities, which led to back and forth with The Miz, who is a former double champion. Former WWE champion. Kofi, as Big E said, is far too humble, far too do the right thing to mention this, but I'm going to say this because it's never been said publicly. Well, nobody in the company, but we, as people on YouTube, Twitter, and other types of social media, have said this for months. The fact that Kofi's a guy who had his legs cut out from underneath him. To see what happened in that match between him and Brock, and to see no title opportunity after that, and he just goes back to a tag team, that's disrespectful. Absolutely. But obviously, WWE did not think, well, we're just going to give Kofi Kingston... See, Kofi Kingston was a long-term burial. WWE let Kofi Kingston and fans of Kofi Kingston think that they were going to give him this big, huge... They were going to put stock in him. They were going to make him feel like an important piece to WWE. And anybody should have realized that was not going to be the case. The fact that they went out there... And honestly, Kofi Kingston had one of the better title reigns for the WWE in a while. He won almost all the time. He wasn't a loser. He wasn't a loser champion in non-title matches on WWE television. That's not something you could say about many people. Maybe Bayley and Drew McIntyre, and I guess I could say Braun Strowman / The Fiend could say the same thing. But usually, somebody is champion in WWE, they're losing all the time in non-title matches because that's how WWE works. And the fact that the only time I think that Kofi lost before he got squashed by Brock Lesnar was in that 2 out of 3 falls, I believe it was, against him and Dolph Ziggler, and he only lost 1 fall. Yeah, Kofi had I wouldn't say a perfect title reign. I mean, the title matches were not the best. The build-up was not the best. The fact that they kept him as Kofi Kingston in a New Day Kofi Kingston didn't help anything either. But yeah, I'm not surprised. Vince McMahon saw Kofi Kingston as just letting the fans have something that they wanted. He would have, like Daniel Bryan would have had that same treatment. The only difference was Daniel Bryan's championship opportunity, championship run. I wouldn't say his first one. I think it was his third championship run. The one that he won at WrestleMania was going to only last till SummerSlam. So Kofi was able to get a title run that lasted all the way till October. Is it a bad thing to see Kofi Kingston get squashed and get no type of opportunities? Yes. But in the long run, you also have to see is even if he's only a one-time champion for the rest of his career, the dude held it for 180 days non-stop, and not everybody can say that. If Drew McIntyre would have lost last week, not even Drew McIntyre could say that. Hell, Drew McIntyre still has to make it through all of September and the beginning of October to get to that 180 days. If we get to the September pay-per-view and Drew McIntyre loses the WWE Championship, he can't have that same saying as hey, I held it for 180 days. We'll just have to see what happens, but I'm not surprised at all that this is what has come out and that nobody believed in Kofi Kingston because he wasn't their pick. Kofi Kingston was not their pick. And it's just what WWE loves to do. They love to... They'll give us something that we want, and Kofi Mania was definitely something that a lot of fans wanted. I am fully on record saying I didn't see Kofi Kingston as a viable WWE champion. I didn't see Kofi Kingston as a legitimate champion. And I'm not surprised to see that WWE was the same way. Did he make it 180 days? Yes. Did he have probably the best winning percentages in WWE at the time? Yes. Was the feuds any good? No. But hey, they did get that Randy Orton feud out of the way, and I'm pretty sure everybody wanted to see that as well. Kofi Kingston will probably never be in the WWE Championship spot again. or even in the Universal title spot either. But that's just the break sometimes, and that's how WWE runs. Now, one of the biggest controversies coming out of WWE Raw was the debut of Keith Lee, his new ring attire, and that awful, awful theme music that they gave him. There was a lot of negativity talk about how WWE changed Keith Lee's theme song for his debut on this past Monday's Raw, the post SummerSlam edition. Word is that Lee signed off on the theme change according to Fightful Select. However, WWE has been urging talent to ditch their CFO's theme songs as of late. WWE parted ways with CFOs a while back, and the producers reportedly signed a terrible deal with the publisher that sees the publisher get half of all royalties. WWE does not have the same publishing deal with the group as they do with legendary composer Jim Johnston, which is why there have been so many changes to WWE music over the last year or so. It was also noted there has been some wrestlers who hated the new theme presented to them as a potential replacement so much that they have outright rejected the change. There is no word yet on if WWE would consider the change Lee's theme song due to the significant amount of negative feedback. Lee, of course, lost the title to Karrion Kross, who had to relinquish his title on Wednesday because of a separated shoulder. He will face Randy Orton this Sunday at Payback in what will be probably a pay-per-view loss. And Lee did come out and say that he has no control over the music. Obviously, and here it is. Yeah, we have it here. Former NXT champion Keith Lee made his debut, as we know. Since then, the Raw debut, he has been receiving fan criticism over his new theme. His full tweet was the following. It says, "Music is out of my hands, period. Leave it be. I'll sort it out later." He also faced criticism over his new ring gear, which was a ring skirt. He wore a skirt, pretty much, and a t-shirt, taking away any identity that made Keith Lee special. It was reported that this Keith Lee signed off on the theme. He also been, Here's my thing. If people were able to reject the theme, why does WWE continue to do this bullshit and have Keith Lee change his music? It makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Yeah, news on some of the identities of some of the Retribution members, which, by the way, SmackDown was the first show we saw nothing from Retribution. Maybe, just maybe, I could be wrong, but maybe WWE has finally seen that Antira, aka Retribution, which Antira stands for anti-ratings, is hurting the show, or people have major criticism of this group and have finally dropped it. We'll have to wait till Monday, probably. NXT star Mia Yim was one of the members of Retribution this past Monday, according to Dave Meltzer. While it does not mean she will necessarily be part of the group, Meltzer speculated that Yim is probably leaving NXT soon, following her loss to Shotzi Blackheart on Wednesday's episode of NXT. Wrestling Inc. has learned that wrestlers from WXW promotion in Magnolia, Florida, owned by Opera, sent 7 wrestlers to last Monday's Raw as extras. They've been sending some extras to Raw since the beginning running at the PC. It appears that some of them have been playing members of Retribution. Marina Tucker appears to have filled in as a member of the Retribution this past week on SmackDown in the Thunderdome. She was also involved, which of course that was last week, and at least one of the Retribution attacks on the show were being taped at the Performance Center. Dominic Dijakovic and Dio Manuel also believed to have been part of the Retribution attack on Mysterio's this past Monday. Honestly, I don't care about Retribution. I think it's time they just end the damn thing. It's not working at all. And I think it's just, it's kind of stupid that somebody showed Vince McMahon a video of what's happening in Portland with Antifa and the Black Lives Matter terrorist groups. And Vince McMahon is like, "Oh, this is a great idea. We need to do that." And here we go. We're in this whole entire Retribution angle, and we as fans do not care. Just like Aces and Eights. When Aces and Eights became a thing, and TNA and Impact Wrestling was doing this angle, the intrigue was big, especially when you had Devon become the very first member shown as a member of this group. And then we had Doc Gallows, Mike Knox, aka Nux, and Garrick Bischoff, and all these other talents, and it just, as every single reveal after Devon until Bully Ray became shown as the leader of the Aces and Eights, it was just disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And when WWE decides on who's going to be these members, they need to show who they're going to be, not at once. That would be stupid. And they need to show us who's going to be these members and make it matter. Right now, these, like, if they showed us that it's like Tommaso Ciampa and Dominic Dijakovic and like Dio Madden and all these other people, and it just doesn't seem like it will matter. Now, with the fact that Tommaso Ciampa came back this past Wednesday as the Sicilian psychopath again and completely turned heel again, it's either he's coming up and becoming a member of this, or he's staying down in NXT and is going to be an NXT lifer again and sticking to being a heel there. Maybe they bring the Undisputed Era up, which would be sucking stupid this way. I don't know, and honestly, I don't think anyone should care because the entire thing is just a big bunch of disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Now, small little thing here, everyone was wondering, when will we see Excalibur again? Because Excalibur, as we know, about 4 weeks ago, was exposed from like 12 years or 18 years ago, saying the N-word during a PWG show. Him and Kevin Owens both were saying the N-word during a PWG show, and cancel culture got to him. Cancel culture did not get to Kevin Owens because Kevin Owens has been on TV since then. But we haven't seen Excalibur on AEW television or Dark since then. Well, Excalibur has made his return. There was a picture floating around on Wednesday showing that Excalibur had made his return. And he wasn't on the show this past Wednesday. But apparently, he was there for Dark. So, and this is the thing. It does look, what I think why we didn't see him on TV is because TNT doesn't want him there. But they want to keep him a part of the company, so Excalibur is going to be on Dark and Dark only. I feel that with the N-word being spewed by Excalibur all those years ago, and the way cancel culture works, he is not going to be on TV probably ever again. TNT is not going to want him on TV ever again. So AEW doesn't want to fire him because they know it was from 18 or so years ago. And let me see. It was it was the early 2000s with him and Kevin Owens. And TNT doesn't want that kind of negativity on their TV. So we're going to have Excalibur it's going to be Excalibur and Taz on Dark. And JR, I could be totally wrong. Maybe it was just this 1 week because they already advertised Jericho as being part of commentary. They didn't want a 4-man booth. But as far as I can see, I could be one of those things where TNT says, well, we don't want this guy on our television because of what he said in the past. I could be totally wrong. I hope I'm totally wrong. And maybe it was just one of those things where they were like, well, we don't need Excalibur on TV this week because we already advertised Jericho's going to be on commentary, and they wanted to keep it as a 3-person booth. But Excalibur is back in one shape or form. And here's another big one as we move on here. WWE. It has been talked about how since Edge is going to be out till next year, that the plan possibly is going to be Edge versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. And Randy Orton was going to win the WWE Championship this past Sunday, but that didn't happen. He's not getting another title match this coming Sunday because it's going to be him and Keith Lee. What are they going to be doing? We don't know. And WWE no longer has a direction for the WrestleMania 37 main event. WWE officials at one point had decided the direction of the WrestleMania 37 main event, but it is no longer the case. It was reported this week by the Wrestling Observer newsletter that WWE had plans to headline WrestleMania 37 with Randy Orton versus Edge in an I Quit match. It was under discussion to have Orton go to the match with the WWE title, but that was not a lock. Now the word is there is no longer a 100% clear main event direction for WrestleMania. Orton is set to face Raw newcomer Keith Lee at Payback, 1 week after losing a SummerSlam match to Drew McIntyre. The match this week's Raw continued the Orton vs. McIntyre feud, so there is still a chance for Orton to win the title. The Observer speculated that if Orton wins the title, then Lee should beat him at Payback to set up Lee vs. Orton match with the WWE title on the line. Orton defeating Lee would be a short-term direction as Orton will be main eventing and going for the title, and it wouldn't make much sense for him to lose. It would also note that Orton could still challenge for the WWE title because of the grudge aspect and the fact that he's been pushed as a top star for many years. There's no one yet on what WWE plans for Lee versus Orton at Payback. While it might seem obvious that Lee should win and get a strong start on the main roster, nothing in WWE is really obvious these days, and haven't been for a very, very long time. It is believed that the injury angle with Drew McIntyre will set up on this week's Raw was done to set up a Orton vs. McIntyre match at Clash of Champions on September 27th. Yeah, that could be what they do. WWE needs to have Keith Lee. If the plan is for Randy Orton to win the WWE Championship, him losing to Keith Lee will not hurt him whatsoever. And it would give Keith Lee a huge bump into showing that, well, they have big plans for Keith Lee. This is the way to start it. Him beating a future Hall of Famer. But if they don't and they have Keith Lee lose, he'll just be another talent on the roster losing in big matches, just like everyone else does too. So, WWE doesn't have a plan for their champ for it right now. I don't know. It is only August. WWE should not have their plans for WrestleMania at the concrete stage until we get to WrestleMania, until we get to Survivor Series. They should have, everything should be written in pencil right now. Everything should be in pencil. So you can erase it and you can go on to what you have. Everything that you want to do at WrestleMania should be in pen by the time Survivor Series weekend is over. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is all we need to say about that. Am I surprised that they haven't, whatever plan they were going to have going into WrestleMania is up in the air now? No, I'm not surprised at all. If you ask me this by December, I'll say, of course. It would still not surprise me. It would be a little bit more frustrating because by then WWE better have something ready to go. But do I want to see Randy Orton versus Edge for the WWE title in an I Quit match or something? Not really. The match at WrestleMania was terrible. The greatest wrestling match ever, which was not the greatest wrestling match ever, was a good match, but it was recorded and taped and edited to look like a really good match. So I don't know on one full stop how good that match actually was. Now, all we know is it's only August. We have the rest of the year to go. And this is something else that I wonder. If WWE and Vince McMahon has plans for going into WrestleMania, into August of this year, we have plans for WrestleMania next year, tentatively. Why is it so hard for them to book Monday Night Raw weeks in advance? It's a big head scratcher, and I just don't get it. Now let's update a little bit on the Sonya Deville thing from last week. It was reported a temporary injunction hearing was held on Thursday regarding an attempted kidnapping of Sonya Deville on August 17th. Wrestling Inc. has learned that the temporary protection injunction has been extended to at least November 12th at 10 a.m., which is the next court date. Philip A. Thomas has attempted to abduct Sonya Deville on the night of August 17th from her home, according to court documents. Thomas broke into Deville's home while carrying a backpack containing plastic zip ties, duct tape, pepper spray, window punches, extra clothes, and a condom. Disturbing details of the attempted abduction from Deville's testimony are available at a link at WrestlingInc.com. So this motherfucker was going to try and abduct her and rape her. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Thomas and Terry had argued for a $2 million bail, which was denied out of concern for DeVille's safety and the safety of other members of her family. DeVille also filed a motion to have evidence sealed, which included messages identifying her family members as well as a photo which contains her home address. Thomas remains incarcerated in the Hillsborough County Jail with charges of aggravated stalking, a third-degree felony, armed burglary of a dwelling, felony punishable by life, armed kidnapping for a ransom or reward or hostage, felony for life, and criminal mischief for less than $200. Second-degree misdemeanor. Sonya Deville, of course, last appeared at SummerSlam this past Sunday, and the loser leaves from a WWE match with Mandy Rose. While she lost the match, she is reportedly not leaving the company. Obviously, this was just to get her out of the limelight. And this is what's sickening too, there are actually sickos out there saying and sending her messages that they're going to finish the job that he started, and they have a bigger knife that is sharper than the one that he brought. What the fuck is wrong with these people? She is, first off, she's gay. She's openly gay. Why are you going to go after this woman in the first fucking place? What has she done to anger you so much that you want to physically harm her, possibly kill her, maybe sexually assault her? What is wrong with you? Get a fucking life. Get a new hobby. If you were really trying to hurt somebody because of their orientation or because of whatever other reason, you need to get your priorities straight in your fucking life. You're going to throw your entire life away because you want to harm somebody physically, sexually, emotionally, mentally. Why? Just why? Grow the fuck up and be better than that. Leave Sonya Deville, leave Daria alone, let her live her life, and just move on and just go from there. So, as we move on from that, WWE Hall of Famer Paul Ellering recently appeared on the Two Men Power Trip of Wrestling podcast and revealed that he was set to return to WWE programming with the Authors of Pain before COVID-19 pandemic hit. It was also before Razor suffered a tricep injury in March, putting the team on the shelf once again while they were in the middle of a push on the Raw brand. The idea was to bring me back, but then this Corona stuff came up. Then the guys got hurt, and they were out for a while, so everything got put back on the shelf, and I don't know where it sits now. Ellering, of course, managed Akam and Razor in NXT, and then briefly after they were brought up to the main roster, but they fired him and moved on. In an update, the Wrestling Newsletter reports that Ellering returned to work with the AOP would have been under Paul Heyman's direction when he worked as the Raw Executive Director. Heyman had plans to give the AOP... Hold on, it went away. A big push as top heel tag team on the Red brand. This would have been an interesting dynamic with Ellering managing AOP, as they were also set to be big muscle for Seth Rollins at the time. The push fell apart due to Razor's injury, and then the decision made to keep Akam off TV until Razor was able to return. A WWE source noted that the Wrestling Observer claimed Ellering was never brought up to the return of the AOP before the pandemic or since then because WWE Chairman Vince McMahon didn't like Ellering. This is reportedly why Vince had AOP turn on Ellering after the main roster debut match. Regarding future plans for AOP, word now is they will not be working with Seth Rollins when they return, but they could always change. AOP is expected to be back sometime late September and the end of the year. It will be interesting to see if AOP will still receive a big push now that Heyman is no longer working creatively, because WWE wasn't using them before he came into power. The answer to that question is no, they will not. Vince McMahon doesn't give a shit about the AOP. Here's what you do with them. Put them back down in NXT. Put them back down in the care of Triple H, where they can actually be a relevant tag team going up against the Breezango, going up against maybe the former NXT Tag Team Champions of the Undisputed Era, going up against all these other tag teams that they have down there, Marcelo Barthel and Fabian Eichner, Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, if they're still going to be down there. AOP could help bolster that tag team division and make it the tag team as good as the tag team division it was before. Will WWE do that? Probably not. But that is their problem. I don't know why Vince McMahon doesn't like Paul Ellering, but Paul Ellering made the AOP the AOP. If you would have brought Akam Razor to NXT without Paul Ellering, I don't think that team would have made it as far as they did, and I don't think they would be up on the main roster. They would have been fine, but they wouldn't have had that same feel of a team without him. Vince McMahon, just as again, we'll say this as many times as we can, he has to go. Now, one last thing before we get out of here. Yes, Friday, one of the crazy things that we saw in the Thunderdome was apparently Kenny Omega watching SmackDown from the Thunderdome. Since bringing virtual fans to the Thunderdome, WWE has to deal with some expensive images showing up during their shows. Chris Benoit, KKK, execution, all that stuff. The abhorrent behavior and all that stuff. On Friday, a fan noticed an image of Kenny Omega made it on the air. It's likely Omega was not actually a virtual fan in the photo, and as the photo was from the episode 158 of Being the Elite at the 133 mark. Omega tweeted earlier on Saturday, had some fun with it on Twitter. I was just trying to have a good time. I honestly didn't think anyone would notice. So, we don't know if this is actually real. That maybe Kenny Omega was there. Maybe it was him putting his own photo up. Who knows? It does look like Kenny Omega, and all I can say is, if it was, that would be hilarious. If it was actually Kenny Omega, or if anyone put Kenny Omega in that position, I guarantee you, if Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn saw that backstage, they were probably having a meltdown. Why would WWE want to see their enemy in their show? I think it would be funny because it's like, well, you finally wanted to see how the big boys play, how the big boys, and all that stuff. Is it something that we should really look into? No, not really. It's just something that happened. It was it was just either Kenny Omega fooling around with WWE or somebody trolling WWE with Kenny Omega. Is it offensive? No. Is it something that WWE should get pissed about? No. Trust me, whether it was Kenny Omega or it was a picture of Kenny Omega or anything else, it's nowhere close to as bad as anything that has to do with the Chris Benoit picture, the KKK, or an execution, or anything else that happened in the Thunderdome. Again, anybody who is sitting there trying to ruin the Thunderdome for anybody who actually wants to participate, you can go fuck yourself. But that is your Unscripted episode number 134 for August the 30th, 2020. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club. And I will see you guys tonight for Payback. Until then, my name is The France, and I'll see you guys later.